2023 was really a watershed year for video games. It is by no short amount that this year will be cemented as one of the greatest in gaming history. There were so many good games this year that I didn't even get around to playing all of them. Shoutouts to Pizza Tower and Alan Wake 2, both good games that I hadn't had the chance to play before making this video, but would have been on the list if I did. Baldur's Gate 3 was definitely the big one this year. No one could stop talking about it, and it even won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It's definitely a game I know I'm gonna like when I do play it, so I want to make sure I could give it the proper treatment and play it only when I have enough time to dig deep into it. But as for the games I did play, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game designed by assholes for assholes, and I love every second of it. Out of the three major TCGs, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is definitely the one that is the least graceful. Most games go off of this thing called set rotation, which means that every couple of months they change the list of legal cards as more get added. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Every set ever printed is legal to some degree, which definitely creates a fair amount of jank, but it's this jank that is the heart and soul of the game. The premise of a single match is to, with few exceptions, get your big boss monster out in a single turn. While in other games, this process would constitute a slow build-up over several turns where you have to play and preserve your crucial pieces around what your opponent does, and also while they're doing the same thing, those games aren't on crack the entire time. In Yu-Gi-Oh! You could spend an entire turn setting up an elaborate combo and have your opponent just pull out a single card and turn the game completely around. This game is the angriest I've ever been, but at the same time there's nothing better than shutting down some smug player on the other end who thinks they've got the match won. Truly, a game for assholes, and I am one of them. When I finished A Space for the Unbound, as the credits slowly faded from my screen, I sat there with the only light being the light from my TV screen, just thinking about what I saw. It's crazy exactly how much this game's narrative juggles. At the end of the day, it's a story about moving past trauma, but told in a way that moves past its main characters and takes everything this game has into account. Watching the town and its community evolve as you play the game really makes it feel more alive. For a short game, it's extremely lively. As well as the main plot, you also have a bucket list of side activities you can complete, small things you can do throughout the game that come back in a major way at the end of it. You can become the master of this arcade fighting game, pet and name every single cat around town, collect bottle caps, and even help the townsfolk overcome obstacles in their daily lives, all while trying to figure out the truth about who Rhea is and what she's capable of. I won't spoil the mystery, but damn. While this game definitely starts out slow, it makes itself worth it by the end. It is really good at keeping you invested throughout the story, even if it's just to see what bizarre set piece it will throw at you next. Fear and Hunger is a game that does not give a fuck about you. Right away, you are thrown into a dungeon and told to save this guy with no context. If you manage to escape the killer dogs at the front of the gate, you are greeted by a massive ogre prison guard who attacks you with his dick and can one-shot you. I never understood Dark Souls fans when they say the story of the game is very elaborate, yet when you actually go through the game, there's barely any story at all there. Fear and Hunger, much like Dark Souls, is a game where you have to piece together the fucked up reality of what's actually happened in this dungeon, using nothing but your wit, the occasional hint, and a lot of context clues. But it always feels like I'm just scratching the surface of what this game truly has to offer, much like the Lovecraftian stories that inspired it. This year, I started delving into the world of Pokemon Kaizo ROM hacks when my friend Ted told me about one that he was working on. Pokemon Blood Moon takes the original game of Pokemon Moon, but cranks every battle up to 11. If you've been wanting that meaty challenge from the main game, well, here it is. I have played through Pokemon Sun and Moon multiple times, but playing this made it feel like it was the first time. In addition, he also gave weaker Pokemon massive buffs. I was surprised that even in a game this brutal, this challenging, that Pokemon like Venomoth and Parasect had their uses. It's a fun ROM hack, it's a ridiculous ROM hack, and I can't wait for you guys to finally play it when it comes out officially. At GDC this year, the game that I ended up playing the most was Planet Cube Edge. This game is tough and tense. It's retro-style platforming that reminds me of Mega Man X and Super Meat Boy. I spent a good portion of the third day just playing this game and talking to the developer. I was so close to getting to the end of the playable demo, but before I could, the convention ended and the power shut down. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should check this game out. Before I move on to the next part, check out this OST real quick. Yeah, right? It's almost as addicting as the actual game. You know, I never understood why people liked the Zelda lore. Until this. That's canon, and you can't convince me otherwise. The amount of personal freedom in this game is mind-blowing. It encourages you to get creative on how you move past an issue and what you do to get around it. You can play this game a billion times and have each run be unique. If you were to ask me what games I think deserve a full-on remake, the last thing I would tell you is Resident Evil 4. Not because it's a bad game, but because this game still holds up, even today. And also it's been ported to everything. So when they did announce this game would be remade, I was a little skeptical. I knew it was going to be good, but the major hurdle this game was going to have to overcome was proving itself as a major upgrade over the original, and a necessary one. Resident Evil 4 somehow takes this already classic game and justifies fully remaking it on next-gen hardware. As gaming has gone on and public opinion shifts, I feel like we've lost something along the way. Gaming now feels like it has to justify its own existence by having every major game be a cinematic 40+ hour-long event. It feels like the developers are telling you why their game is important rather than just letting it speak for itself, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it feels like games nowadays take themselves so seriously. I really noticed this when I was playing the new Spider-Man game. It's a good game, but parts of the story where it would have benefited from being a little more tongue-in-cheek, it kind of fell flat. I sat there thinking, this is Spider-Man, he's supposed to be the funny one. I feel like over the years as AAA gaming evolves, games with bonkers story concepts are a dying breed. Resident Evil 4 uses its technology in conjunction with its wacky premise. This is a game where you fight an evil zombie Napoleon Bonaparte in a castle while running away from zombies. This is a game where you get chased by a tall man who turns into a demon scorpion man and you have to fight him in a burning slaughterhouse. In the second phase of his attacks, he throws pieces of the building at you. This is a game where you fight back an entire village of zombies and a chainsaw man, and then Leon says,
"Where's everyone going? Bingo?"
It's written well, it plays well, and it looks fantastic. Back in September, me and a couple of friends headed down to LA and checked out Super Nintendo World. I'm putting this on here because everything about this theme park is a video game. What do I mean by that? It's built in such a way where you have to interact with it like a video game. You start by downloading this Universal app and buying one of those wristbands. With it, you can collect stamps and keys. These keys can be obtained by completing certain in real-life challenges and timing minigames. It all ends with a boss fight against Bowser Jr. The highlight has to be this Mario Kart ride. The line to entry is built like Peach's Castle. There are references to Yoshi's Island and Mario 64, among other games. The ride itself is one of those gun gallery games, but incorporates elements of virtual reality. My friends and I had fun competing for the high score. I won. Don't let them tell you otherwise. For many people, those classic Mario games hold a special place in their heart. Super Mario Bros. 3, World, and 64 are some of the names brought up when discussing some of the best video games of all time. Super Mario Bros. Wonder belongs on that list. It's crazy how many bizarre ideas are crammed into this game, yet none of them ever overstay their welcome or feel intrusive. This game has the spirit of those old Mario games, but the technology to execute on its premise in ways not possible before. Combine that with the smooth way that Mario & Co. handle, as well as the badges that allow you to get creative with how exactly you want to approach any given level. Then on top of that, you have the Wonder Flowers. Any other video game would just leave it at that. If these Wonder Flower segments didn't exist, this game would still be on the list, but they do. Every level says, you know what? Let's take things a step further, and then proceeds to flip the premise on its head. The pipes are actually inchworms? Fuck it, why not? Here's Metal Gear Goomba. Guess what? Now it's a musical. It sounds cheesy, but this game made me feel like a kid again.
Here we go!
Some people are going to be mad about this one. Some people aren't going to understand why this game is topping my list. With all the fantastic games that released this year, Mario Wonder, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, I fear that no one is going to take me seriously after this, ever again, but goddamn, I gotta speak my truth. This is the best game Bethesda has published in a long time. Hi-Fi Rush is... Oh, you thought! No, but seriously, Hi-Fi Rush is one of the best action games I've ever played. If there was ever a game that was made specifically for me, it would be this one. Apparently, that's what a lot of people also thought, because this game did extremely well despite being a shadow drop. I'm serious, they just revealed this game at one of those Xbox Directs and were like, yo, if you have Game Pass, you could just go ahead and play this. which is definitely one way to market your game. Anyway, the game itself is a rhythm action game. Time your attacks to the rhythm of the music for extra damage and more stylish attacks. If you can get into the music, you can get into the combat. Honestly, when talking about this game, I have to give props to the writing. This game is one of the funniest games that I have ever played. Watching Chai mess with these corporate suits, or mess something up royally for them, by just being himself, always gets me. If you ever find yourself bored during a level, you're not far from the next joke or action set piece, so that really helps cut down on the repetition. I love the part where you beat a boss to a level by having him drain his budget trying to destroy you. Or how about the part where the game builds to an epic plan that Chai has for getting into the enemy HQ, only for it to be launching himself out of a cannon? This game fucking rules. Honestly, in a year as packed as this one, it's crazy to say that Hi-Fi Rush is atop this year's best, but it absolutely is, man. The writing as well as the gameplay are paced perfectly. This game looks gorgeous and it's fist-pumping action through and through. Go play it for yourself to see what I mean. Hey, speaking of, did you hear that I was working on a rhythm action game? It's true. Project Team E Sasha's Curse is like if you took Captain Toad and gave it a musical twist. The levels, enemies, and obstacles all move to the rhythm of the beat, so you're going to have to be clever listening for musical cues before you place traps to deal with enemies. The story is written by yours truly. I honestly can't wait for you guys to see what we've all cooked up here. The people I work with over at Ephemeral Cube are all super passionate and talented. They are a continuous source of inspiration to me, with all the amazing work they do on this game. If any of that sounds interesting to you, or you just like what you see, I've left a bunch of links in the description, all directing you to ways you can support us. Follow us on Twitter for updates, follow us on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram for fun videos with the game, wishlist the game on Steam, you'll be notified when demos of the game release. Here's hoping that Project Team E Sasha's Curse ends up on your list for 2024. See you guys in the next video, whatever that may be. By the way, I've pushed back the Scarlet and Violet video to later this year. Now that the game is finally complete, it just makes sense.